Thus, this moment that we're in, I think we're explaining that um, everything that they're trying to do to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, the importance of Black history, the contributions of Black people, and when you look at what they're doing and how they're handling it now, it really is, they're doing the exact opposite of what they think they're doing. They're proving that there is no white supremacy, that they're not superior, that they are, in many ways, a lot less talented and a lot less smarter than many people of color in this country.
Look, but it proves the Toni Morrison quote, which she says when she was young, and that white people would treat her different and weird, and her father wasn't having any of it. And she says, "I always knew I had the moral upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew that you were deficient because you were doing this thing."
Yeah.
And I believe that there is nothing more clear in this moment that has been clarifying for me in this moment than to know that I now know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I have the moral upper hand.
Yeah.
You may have the power in Washington or whatever, you may have the power to strip universities, but you are digging yourself so deep into a hole of immorality that you will never emerge from it for me.
Yeah. But you're also digging yourself deep in, to prove the non-existence of white supremacy or white
That's
superiority,
already gone.
just by your actions, just by your incompetence, that you're proving it.
Because it doesn't work.
Because it doesn't work.
Because it doesn't work. There's no way to make it work. It is anti-intellectual from the beginning. So the fact that you would have idiots working in this anti-intellectual environment makes total sense because it never made
sense.
It is not an intellectual thing.
So then what is the big push to now? Because everything, I mean, honestly, everything now is, let's remove Blackness altogether from history, from the present, from the future. If you look at the folks who are in charge, mainly incompetent white men who are in charge of the country right now. And that's just, I'm just being honest. It's not racist. It's an honest, I believe, objective viewpoint of what's happening, examination of what's happening.
But part of it is not about efficacy. It may not all of it will work. They don't care.
Then what is it then?
I mean, they're putting stakes in the ground. They're putting stakes in the ground.
For what?
To signify that this is what we believe, and we will not only now we will not back away from it, we will not code it. We won't code it. Maybe a court will knock this down or that down, but we have put the stake in the ground with the President of the United States name and signature on it, that this is what we believe. And when polls show that 90% of Republicans say they are happy with the performance of that president, they are putting stakes in the ground.
Does it bother you that they don't care? They don't care. It's in your face.
It is.
In a way, I'm happy that it's in
revelatory.
Yeah.
What it has done for a lot of people. I had a young woman talk to me today at the book signing about how ashamed she was for allowing herself to believe that they had changed and they were different.
That they had changed and they were different? Yeah.
And I think a lot of Black people are hurt in that way because there was a moment that people didn't think there was post-racial, but they dared to dream that progress was continuous, that it would always, no matter how slowly it happened, we would put one brick on top of the next one. This is forcing us to understand there's not one brick on top there. They're knocking the wall down.
But
it is the Baldwin thing. When he says in one of his essays, Black people don't want to be betrayed by too much helping.
Yeah.
I never quite got that until this moment where I feel convicted by that I am betrayed in my own self because I may have hoped more than I should.
Okay, but isn't it weird? I think you were saying the same thing. Doesn't it feel a bit liberating it feels liberating for me that the truth has come out. Not necessarily, I don't believe it's just sort of lifting the veil. I believe the mask is off. And I think the mask is off for a certain degree. I believe full transparency right now. And it gives me the freedom, actually, to lean into my Blackness as hard and as much as I want to lean into it. I don't have to, like, sort of go, well, white people. I just say it out loud. White people are doing this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I feel this freedom now to just, as much as they have taken the mask off, so have I taken the mask off with politeness, right? Which, I don't want to offend people. I don't care if I offend you anymore, because what you're doing is so offensive that it doesn't matter anymore for me.
I don't know if liberation is the way I would describe it for me, because I see people willing to destroy it all rather than to share it. And that is so kind of fatalistic. Like, you are willing to burn it all down.
Yeah.
And I think I look at that and I think, how will we ever coexist and come back from that? You have to at some point just assume that we're going to have some collective amnesia or collective forget, just if you assume that you will get past it.
But that's showing me you were more hopeful than you let on, because I think that you can. I think go ahead. Tear it down and rebuild it, because we need that. We need to rebuild it from an honest place, and maybe that's where we are right now. Did I have hope? Yes, but maybe you were more hopeful than
I think it's idealistic to say, burn it all down and rebuild it. Building is often centuries-long work, super hard work, and unsure. Like, there were so many moments in American history where it could have just gone really badly, and just in most countries' histories, right? There are a million forks in the road. And I can say, in kind of a clinical sense, yes, tear it all down and start over. But I know those forks reappear, and it could all go wrong still in the rebuilding. Tearing something down also involves chaos.
But don't you want to tear down a house that's not built on a good foundation? You have to start. You've got to say.
I think in theory, I think in the real world where there's a million moving pieces, including the internal population and their politics, and other nation states and their politics, and how that has all been globalized with social media and the internet and AI, the dangers involved in a start from scratch approach to the largest, the wealthiest country in the world, the dangers in that are also very evident to me. And whenever there's danger, what history tells me is that Black people get the worst of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think, yes, I would love, in theory, if I could map it all out on, in my computer and rewrite the history to be right. Yes, I would do that. But because I know we don't have the reins of power, we don't have the bulk of the wealth. In that chaos, if something goes wrong, we get the worst.
But I don't believe that we're starting over. The difference is that we're starting over with the knowledge of who we really are and what this country really is.
Who's the we?
So if all of us.
We're not all of us, because half the country doesn't believe the truth right now.
Well, but it would put us, I think it puts us at least an advantage with this rebuilding that we didn't have from the beginning, of knowing exactly, and maybe less, I believe, less hope.
Are you assuming that the rebuilding happens without these people here? The people who are voting for this, and 90% of
not
are
wrong.
support.
Well, of course,
Oh, if they're here, how does that not create chaos? I mean, it's the same chaos you have now, but you just have a few structures still in place. Take away all the structures, right?
But I think we start at a stronger place. We start at a place that we have a more economic power than we had before. African Americans, Black people.
How would you start over with more economic power?
What do you mean how we start?
How would you start over with more economic power? How do you claw it out of the hands of the people who have it now?
Well, we have to claw it out of the hands of the people we have it now, even with where we are, and it doesn't appear to be working.
Okay, but let's say you had the magic wand and you start over. How does it transfer? How does the wealth transfer?
Well, reparations, which AI,
I'm all for it, but
we have AI, we have artificial intelligence now, which we can do it as I write, just as we do in a lawsuit,
okay.
in a legal suit. You figure out where everything should go, and then we work for it.
First of all, reparations has never been a math problem. Like this whole the whole creation that is so difficult to do.
That is, you think it's an intellectual problem?
Seriously, it's never been a problem. We can figure out anything. We went through COVID. We figured out how to get trillions of dollars out the door to everybody who needed it overnight.
I agree with you, but
Overnight.
the math problem is who should it go to? Where should it go to? Which people?
What is that?
How do we understand?
Listen, 23andMe is up for sale. Like right now. This is not an issue. This is not an
Do
issue.
you think AI could figure that out? I think that is the math problem that I'm talking about.
I think people are saying, oh,
Where does it go? I don't.
Stop saying we don't know who gets the money. We have genealogists. You have proof. Stop saying we want to put it into a fund for housing and a fund for education. Reparation has always been cash. Always been cash. People always got checks. Nobody got a college fund. Nobody started talking about college funds until they started talking about us. I would put my own kid in college. Thank you.
You want the cash?
Give me a shot.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm in a position where I was like, I need the money.
But how is that not a math problem then? If you want to check,
People have. That's what reparation has always been.
I agree.
Literally,
That's what I mean.
around the world. Listen, when the English basically literally gave reparations to the enslavers because they said you can't get rid of slavery because it's my property.
Germany.
And they paid them.
Yeah.
So it's always been money.
Yeah.
Trump was in an interview, I think it was on Newsmax, and he was entertaining the idea of reparations for the J6 riders.
Yeah. Reparations for white people. And reparations for farmers actually in South Africa to come to this country.
When people start with the whole like, how do you do it? It's so complicated. No. It's a check. Here's the birth certificate. Where's my check? Like that. That's what it is.
I think we're saying the same thing. I look at it as a math problem, but it's not.
How's it math?
I'm not saying it's a math.
How's complicated as math?
How do you figure out who to give it to?
There are books written, literally calculated what the scale of.
All right, but it sounds like you're proving my point that we can do it, and at least we have knowledge to do it now.
We can do it.
Okay, so then we have that to start with the foundation that we didn't have before. Do you understand what?
Okay, so, but it's a problem. Let's say if you tear everything down, there's no treasury. It's just chaos. If everything crumbles. In theory, it makes sense. In practice, it makes chaos.